On a dark Texas highway, where tumbleweeds roll across the road and coyotes howl at the moon, there's a legend that keeps drivers awake and shivering in their trucks. They call it the Ghost Rider. Some say it's just a spooky story. Others swear they've seen him with their own eyes. Tonight, we're going to find out what happens when two brothers take a night drive on that very highway. Get comfortable, but don't turn off your lights just yet. This story will make you want to keep them on. It was a warm, late summer night, and Jason and his little brother, Luke, were driving home from a family reunion. They were miles deep into the open Texas countryside, the road stretching out in front of them like a black ribbon under the starry sky. "Are we there yet?" Luke asked, yawning as he sank into his seat. At only 12, he looked up to his big brother Jason for everything. "Almost, little man," Jason replied, chuckling. He was 17, old enough to drive, but young enough to be thrilled by a bit of a scare. "Maybe we'll see a shooting star if we're lucky." Just then, the car's headlights lit up a sign by the side of the road. "You are now entering Ghost Rider territory." Luke's eyes widened. Ghost Rider territory? What does that mean? Jason shrugged, but he knew the story. Almost everyone in this part of Texas did. They say there's a man, a ghost, who rides his motorcycle down this highway at night, Jason said slowly, glancing over at Luke with a smirk. "He's been dead for years, but he never really left. People see him riding along, his face hidden under a shadowy helmet, his eyes like red-hot coals." Luke shivered but tried to act tough. "Why is he still here?" "Well, the story goes, he had an accident on this very road. He was riding fast, maybe too fast, when something, or someone, made him swerve off the road. He crashed and never made it home. They say he rides to find the person who made him crash, still looking to finish his last ride." "Jason, stop it, you're scaring me," Luke said, clutching his seatbelt a little tighter. But Jason just laughed. "It's just a story, Luke. Besides, look at this road. Nothing but empty land for miles." Suddenly, a chill crept through the car. Luke felt at first a strange coldness that prickled his skin. "Jason, do you feel that?" "Feel what?" "Like, it just got really, really cold." Jason was about to brush it off, but he felt it too. The air felt icy, like a winter wind had crept into their car. And then, out of nowhere, they heard it. A faint, distant roar, like the growl of a powerful engine. It started softly, just a hum, but it grew louder, filling the silence around them. "Jason, what's that sound?" Luke whispered, his voice trembling. Jason squinted at his rearview mirror. Far down the dark road, he saw a single headlight, glowing like a small, distant star. It was moving fast, gaining on them. The light flickered, vanishing for a second and then reappearing even closer. "Oh no," Jason muttered, his hands tightening on the wheel. "Hold on, Luke. I think it's him." The motorcycle roared louder, echoing off the empty landscape. Jason pushed his foot down on the gas, hoping to keep some distance, but the headlight only came closer. He couldn't shake it. Is it really him?" Luke asked, his voice a tiny whisper. Jason nodded, not daring to take his eyes off the road. "It has to be. Look." The motorcycle had gotten close enough that they could see it clearly now. A rider dressed in a black leather jacket, his face hidden beneath a dark helmet. The motorcycle itself was old, with gleaming silver handlebars and a frame that seemed almost too perfect, like it had never been touched by dust or rust. But strangest of all was the rider's face, or lack of one. Behind that helmet, there were no eyes, no mouth, only an eerie darkness. The Ghost Rider pulled up beside them, matching their speed exactly. Jason felt his heart race. He'd heard stories about the Ghost Rider, but never thought he'd see it himself. "Stay calm, Luke," Jason whispered, trying to keep his cool. "Just stay calm." Luke stared at the Ghost Rider, too scared to look away. The rider turned his head slowly, facing them. Jason felt as if he could feel the rider's eyes, if he even had eyes, burning through the helmet, looking right into their car. And then, with a sudden, sharp turn, the Ghost Rider shot forward, speeding ahead of them. Jason eased off the gas, hoping the rider would disappear into the night. But the Ghost Rider didn't disappear. Instead, he slowed down, blocking the road ahead, forcing Jason to stop the car completely. What does he want? Luke whimpered, pressing himself back in his seat. I don't know, Jason whispered, gripping the wheel. He tried to stay calm, but he could feel his heart pounding. The Ghost Rider just sat there, unmoving, as if daring them to make a move. For a few seconds, the world seemed frozen. Jason and Luke held their breath, watching the figure in front of them. Then, slowly, the Ghost Rider lifted his hand and pointed to the side of the road, toward an old, worn-out path leading into the dark desert. I think he wants us to follow him, Jason said, his voice barely audible. Follow him? Are you crazy? Luke whispered, his face pale as a ghost. We don't have a choice, Luke, Jason replied, swallowing hard. Maybe he'll leave us alone if we do. Taking a deep breath, Jason turned onto the deserted path, his headlights barely illuminating the rough terrain. The Ghost Rider led the way, his single headlight casting eerie shadows across the road. The brothers stayed close behind, their eyes glued to the rider in front of them. After what felt like hours, the Ghost Rider stopped in front of an old, crumbling cross at the side of the road. Jason and Luke looked around, confused. It seemed like an odd place to stop. The rider dismounted his bike and stood beside the cross, motioning for them to get out. Jason and Luke stepped out of the car, too frightened to disobey. They walked closer, and that's when they saw it. Carved into the stone at the base of the cross were the words, in memory of a lost soul, seeking his final ride home. The Ghost Rider raised his hand once more, pointing toward the cross as if asking for peace, for remembrance. Jason swallowed hard, understanding now. This wasn't a ghost looking for revenge, he was looking for someone to acknowledge his final resting place, to know he was still there. The brothers nodded, their eyes filled with both fear and compassion. We remember you, Jason whispered, his voice barely audible. We'll never forget. The Ghost Rider lowered his hand, climbed back onto his motorcycle, and rode away into the night, fading into the darkness. Jason and Luke watched until the headlight disappeared, the air feeling warm and calm once more. Without a word, they climbed back into their car and drove home, each deep in thought about the ghost they had just met. They never spoke of the encounter again, but every time they drove that highway, they'd glance over at the cross, remembering the Ghost Rider who found peace on that dark Texas road.